Hello everyone. In this video we will discuss the poem A Grammarian's Funeral by Robert Browning. First of all, let us start stanza-wise explanation of the poem. First stanza, which is about departure from the mundane. Let us begin and carry up this corpse, singing together. Leave we the common crofts, the vulgar throbs, each in its tether. Sleeping safe on the bosom of the plain, cared for till cock crow. Look out if yonder be not day again, rimming the rock row. That's the appropriate country. There, man's thought, rarer, intenser, self-gathered for an outbreak, as it ought, chafes in the censer. Leave we the unlettered plain its herd and crop, seek we sepulture on a tall mountain, seated to the top, crowded with culture. And now explanation. The poem opens with a solemn yet celebratory tone as the speaker and his followers prepare to carry the grammarian's body to its final resting place. The common crofts and vulgar throbs symbolize the unlettered and mundane lives of ordinary people whose existence is marked by simplicity and routine. These lowlands where people sleep safe on the bosom of the plain depict a world where intellectual growth is neither sought nor valued. In contrast, the mountain represents the realm of higher learning and enlightenment where man's thought, rarer, intenser, seeks fulfillment. The reference to the day rimming the rock row suggests a new dawn, symbolic of enlightenment and transcendence. The call to seek sepulture on a tall mountain, seated to the top, crowded with culture, reinforces the idea that the grammarian's achievements belong in a realm where intellectual excellence is revered. The procession, accompanied by singing, transforms the journey into a sacred ritual, symbolizing the elevation of the grammarian's soul to a higher plane. And now, second stanza, which is about ascending to knowledge and excellence. All the peaks soar, but one the rest excels. Clouds overcome it. No, yonder sparkle is the citadel's circling its summit. Thither our path lies. Wind we up the heights. Wait ye the warning. Our low life was the levels and the nights. He's for the morning. Step to a tune, square chests, erect each head. Where the beholders. This is our master, famous, calm, and dead, borne on our shoulders. As the procession continues, the ascent toward the mountain serves as a powerful metaphor for the grammarian's journey from the mundane to the sublime. The peaks symbolize the various heights of intellectual achievement, yet one the rest excels, referring to the grammarian's exceptional contributions to scholarship. The citadel at the summit signifies the pinnacle of knowledge and intellectual excellence, suggesting that the grammarian's work places him among the greatest minds. The contrast between our low life associated with the night and his for the morning reinforces the idea that while ordinary lives are governed by darkness and ignorance, the grammarian's pursuit of knowledge aligns with the brightness of enlightenment. The act of carrying his body, borne on our shoulders, is not just a physical act, but a symbolic gesture, highlighting the reverence and recognition bestowed upon his contributions. And now let's start stanza third, which is about the grammarian's commitment to learning. Sleep, crop and herd, sleep darkling thorpe and croft, safe from the weather. He whom we convey to his grave aloft, singing together, he was a man born with thy face and throat, lyric Apollo. Long he lived nameless, how should spring take note, winter would follow? Till lo the little touch, and youth was gone, cramped and diminished, mourned he, new measures, other feet anon. My dance is finished. No, that's the world's way. Keep the mountainside, make for the city. He knew the signal, and stepped on with pride over men's pity. And explanation? In this stanza, the grammarian is compared to Apollo, the Greek god of poetry and knowledge, emphasizing his divine potential and intellectual prowess. However, despite being destined for greatness, the grammarian lived nameless for much of his life, reflecting the reality that dedication to learning often goes unnoticed. The metaphor of spring and winter highlights the inevitable passage of youth and the arrival of age and responsibility. When others might have lamented the loss of youth, my dance is finished, the grammarian did not surrender to despair. Instead, he recognized the signal, a metaphor for the calling of intellectual pursuit, and embraced it with pride. He stepped over men's pity, indicating his indifference to societal judgment and his unwavering commitment to his scholarly endeavors. His decision to keep the mountainside and make for the city signifies his conscious choice to pursue a life of knowledge and intellectual growth, regardless of the sacrifices involved. And now, fourth stanza, which is about embracing work over play. Left play for work and grappled with the world, bent on escaping. What's in the scroll? Quoth he. Thou keepest furled, show me their shaping. Theirs who most studied man, the bard and sage, give. So he gowned him. Straight got by heart that book to its last page. Learned we found him. Yeah, but we found him bald too. Eyes like lead, accents uncertain. Time to taste life, another would have said. Up with the curtain. And now the explanation. The grammarian's choice to embrace work over play highlights his deliberate rejection of leisure and worldly pleasures in favor of rigorous intellectual pursuits. His desire to uncover the mysteries hidden in the scroll signifies his quest for knowledge left by the great minds of the past, the bard and sage. By donning the scholar's gown and mastering the book to its last page, the grammarian demonstrates a complete immersion in his studies. However, this devotion comes at a cost. His physical decline is reflected in his baldness, leaden eyes, and uncertain speech. The contrast between his life and that of others who would have chosen to taste life underscores his willingness to sacrifice personal pleasures for the sake of intellectual fulfillment. His decision to forego immediate gratification in favor of pursuing knowledge reflects the Renaissance ideal of dedicating oneself to the advancement of learning. And now we have stanza 5, which is about lifelong pursuit of knowledge. This man said rather, actual life comes next. Patience a moment. Grant I have mastered learning's crabbed text. Still there's the comment. Let me know all. Prate not of most or least, painful or easy. Even to the crumbs I'd fain eat up the feast. eye, nor feel queasy. And the explanation? The grammarian's relentless pursuit of knowledge is captured in his desire to know all. Unlike others who might be content with a superficial understanding, he is determined to master even the minutiae of intellectual pursuits. His approach is meticulous and exhaustive, refusing to distinguish between what is painful or easy, as he seeks completeness in his learning. The metaphor of the feast conveys his voracious appetite for knowledge, where he is willing to consume even the crumbs, implying that no detail is too insignificant. His patience and perseverance reflect his belief that a full understanding of life and knowledge requires a comprehensive grasp of all its components. The grammarian's dedication to learning goes beyond the acquisition of knowledge. It embodies the spirit of Renaissance humanism, where intellectual mystery is seen as a lifelong commitment. And now, stanza 6, which is about defiance of mortality. Oh, such a life as he resolved to live, when he had learned it, when he had gathered all books had to give, sooner he spurned it. Image the whole, then execute the parts. Fancy the fabric quiet ere you build, ere steel strike fire from quartz, ere mortar dab brick. And now explanation. In this stanza, the grammarian's vision extends beyond earthly life, as he defies the constraints of mortality. He believed that actual life would begin only after he had learned all that books had to offer, demonstrating his view that knowledge prepares the soul for true existence. His approach to life is methodical and visionary, where he insists on visualizing the whole before executing the parts. The metaphor of construction, ere steel strike fire from quartz, ere mortar dab brick, emphasizes the importance of careful planning and thorough preparation before embarking on the task of living. The grammarian's rejection of a premature life underscores his belief that intellectual enlightenment precedes meaningful existence. His devotion to mastering knowledge before engaging with life mirrors the Renaissance ideal of seeking perfection in both thought and action. And now we have 7th stanza, which is about martyrdom for knowledge. Here's the town gate reached, there's the marketplace gaping before us. Yeah, this in him was the peculiar grace. Hearten our chorus. That before living he'd learn how to live, no end to learning. Earn the means first, God surely will contrive use for our earning. And the explanation. As the funeral procession approaches the town gate and marketplace, symbolic of the mundane world of commerce and daily life, the grammarian's unique grace is emphasized. His belief that one must learn how to live before truly living reflects his commitment to mastering knowledge as a prerequisite for a meaningful life. His approach aligns with the idea that intellectual preparation precedes the fulfillment of life's higher purpose. The phrase, "earn the means first, God surely will contrive use of your earning," reinforces the idea that knowledge, once acquired, will inevitably find its purpose. The grammarian's life becomes a model of intellectual martyrdom, where the pursuit of knowledge is viewed as an act of faith and devotion. And now, 8th stanza, which is about ultimate sacrifice and legacy. So, the throttling hands of death at strife ground he at grammar, still, through the rattle, parts of speech were rife. While he could stammer, he settled Hoti's business, let it be, properly based on, gave us the doctrine of the enclitic day, dead from the waist down. And explanation? Even in the face of death, the grammarian persists his scholarly pursuits. His relentless devotion to grammar is depicted as a struggle against mortality, where he continues his work through the rattle of approaching death. The detailed reference to grammarian's elements such as hoti, un, and the enclitic day highlights his meticulous attention to the finer points of language, even as the physical body deteriorates. The stark imagery of being dead from the waist down emphasizes the separation between his failing body and his still active mind, underscoring his ultimate sacrifice for knowledge. His legacy is immortalized through his work, which continues to shape the intellectual world long after his death. And now, ninth stanza, which is the last stanza of this poem, which is about burial on the mountain top. Well, here's the platform, here's the proper place. Hail to your Purlius, all ye high flyers of the feathered race, swallows and curlews. Here's the top peak, the multitude below, live for they can there. This man decided not to live but know. Bury this man there. Here's his place, where meteors shoot, clouds form, lightnings are loosened, stars come and go. Let joy break with the storm, peace let the dew send. Lofty designs must close in like effects, loftily lying. Leave him, still loftier than the world suspects, living and dying. And the explanation? The final stanza situates grammarian's remains on the mountain top, symbolizing his accession to a realm of intellectual and spiritual greatness. The mountain's summit, where meteors shoot, clouds form, and lightnings are loosened, evokes a cosmic realm where knowledge and divine truth converge. His burial among these celestial phenomena signifies that his work transcends earthly limitations, with his intellectual legacy continuing to illuminate the path for future seekers of knowledge. The concluding lines, which suggest that he is still loftier than the world suspects, imply that the true magnitude of his contributions will only be realized in the future. His life, marked by dedication and sacrifice, serves as an enduring testament to the power of immortality and intellectual pursuit. And now, let us discuss the themes of this poem. First is the pursuit of knowledge. The central theme of a grammarian's funeral is the lifelong pursuit of knowledge. The grammarian's journey reflects an insatiable thirst for understanding, where he dedicates himself entirely to mastering the intricacies of language and grammar. His quest for knowledge goes beyond superficial learning. He insists on knowing all, rejecting partial or incomplete understanding. His devotion is depicted as an act of reverence that elevates him from ordinary existence to the realm of the sublime and eternal. Even as his health declines, he remains committed to the intellectual perfection, believing that true existence lies in knowledge, not worldly pleasures. His burial at the mountain top symbolizes the spiritual reward for his dedication, where his legacy endures beyond mortality, embodying the Renaissance ideal of transcending human limitations through learning. And the second theme is sacrifice and martyrdom. Closely tied to the pursuit of knowledge is the theme of sacrifice and martyrdom. The grammarian sacrifices his youth, health, and worldly pleasures for the sake of intellectual mastery. His devotion to scholarship comes at a significant cost, reflecting a conscious decision to pursue higher ideals. Even as death approaches, he ground at grammar, refusing to abandon his studies. His relentless pursuit is likened to martyrdom, where suffering is accepted as the necessary price for intellectual excellence. The imagery of the throttling hands of death portrays his struggle against mortality, yet his perseverance ensures that his work outlives his physical existence. His burial on the mountain top immortalizes him as a martyr of knowledge, whose legacy continues to inspire future generations. And the third theme is transcendence of time and mortality. The grammarian's devotion to learning allows him to transcend time and mortality. He rejects the notion of living in the moment, believing that true life begins after mastering knowledge. His assertion that man has forever reflects the idea that intellectual contributions have a lasting impact beyond human mortality. By dedicating his life to learning, he achieves a form of immortality, where his legacy continues to influence future generations. His burial at the mountain top, a metaphor for eternity and transcendence, symbolizes his accession to a realm where knowledge endures untouched by time. This theme resonates with the Renaissance belief in the permanence of intellectual achievements, highlighting the idea that learning prepares the soul for eternity. And the fourth theme is practicality versus idealism. Browning contrasts practicality with idealism, portraying the grammarian as an idealist who rejects immediate gratification in favor of intellectual pursuits. The low man seeks tangible achievements, while the high man, embodied by the grammarian, aspires to pursue greatness at the cost of worldly success. His decision to leave now for dogs and apes reflects his disdain for fleeting pleasures and his preference for eternal truths. Although this choice leads to hardship and sacrifice, Browning suggests that idealism ultimately triumphs. The grammarian's burial at the summit signifies the victory of intellectual dedication, where his contributions are immortalized, while the low man remains confined to worldly concerns. And the fifth theme is the dignity of laborious scholarship. Browning highlights the dignity of laborious scholarship, emphasizing that intellectual mastery requires discipline, patience, and perseverance. The grammarian's work, though unglamorous, is depicted as an act of intellectual heroism. His meticulous attention to detail, such as Horty's business and the enclitic day, symbolizes his commitment to mastering even the most obscure aspects of language. His refusal to compromise reflects a dedication to excellence that elevates him above ordinary pursuits. His burial at the mountain top amid celestial phenomena underscores the idea that his painstaking work has earned him a place in the pantheon of intellectual greatness. And the seventh theme is mortality and immortality through legacy. The theme of mortality and immortality through legacy permeates the poem, where the grammarian's death is not an end but a transition to a higher existence. Though his body succumbs to mortality, his intellectual contributions ensure his continued influence. Browning suggests that true immortality lies in the enduring power of knowledge, where the grammarian's work shapes future generations. His burial at the summit symbolizes his ascent to a cosmic realm, where his spirit merges with eternal forces. The imagery of meteors, clouds, and stars evokes a timeless domain where the grammarian's legacy radiates unaffected by the passage of time. And the seventh and last theme is spiritual fulfillment through knowledge. The grammarian's pursuit of knowledge is also a spiritual journey that prepares his soul for a higher existence. His insistence on mastering all reflects his desire to achieve intellectual and spiritual completeness, where knowledge becomes a pathway to divine understanding. Browning presents his work as an act of faith, where the pursuit of learning is intertwined with the quest for spiritual fulfillment. His belief that man has forever suggests that intellectual endeavors extend beyond earthly life, preparing the soul for perfection, reinforcing the idea that the pursuit of knowledge is not merely an academic endeavor, but a sacred journey leading to intellectual fulfillment. And now let us discuss the imagery and language of the poem. And the first part is spatial imagery, heights and depths. Browning uses spatial imagery to contrast the lowlands with the mountain top, symbolizing the grammarian's intellectual journey. The lowlands, described as the common crofts and vulgar thorps, represent mundane existence where people are content with routine and material concerns. This realm of ignorance and stagnation contrasts sharply with the mountain top, citied to the top, crowded with culture, symbolizing the heights of knowledge and enlightenment. The ascent to the summit mirrors the grammarian's progression for ignorance to wisdom, culminating his burial at the peak, where his spirit merges with cosmic forces, signifying his transcendence of earthly limitations. And then we have religious and spiritual imagery, sacrifice and ascension. The poem is infused with religious and spiritual imagery, depicting the grammarian's life as a sacred quest for knowledge. The opening lines evoke a religious procession where the followers sing together as they carry the grammarian's body, transforming the funeral into a ritual accession. His intellectual pursuit is linked to a sacred thirst, with phrases like soul hydroptic with sacred thirst, suggesting that his quest for knowledge is a spiritual endeavor. The mountain becomes a sacred space where celestial phenomena such as meteors shoot, clouds form, lightnings are loosened, stars come and go, symbolize his ultimate union with the divine. And then we have celestial and cosmic imagery, immortality and eternity. Browning employs celestial and cosmic imagery to emphasize the grammarian's transcendence of mortality. As the procession ascends the mountain, the imagery shifts from the earthly to the cosmic, suggesting a journey from the temporal to the eternal. The references to meteors shoot, clouds form, lightnings are loosed, stars come and go evoke a cosmic realm where the grammarian's soul resides, highlighting the immortality of his intellectual contributions. His burial at the mountain's summit signifies his place among the eternal, where his influence continues to illuminate future generations. And then we have metaphors of war and struggle, intellectual combat. The grammarian's relentless pursuit of knowledge is depicted through metaphors of war and struggle, portraying his intellectual journey as a battle against ignorance and mortality. He grappled with the world, bent on escaping, suggesting that his quest was an active, arduous journey. Even in the face of death, he continues to grind at grammar, refusing to surrender. His unwavering commitment transforms him into a martyr of knowledge, whose sacrifice ensures that his intellectual legacy endures beyond his lifetime. And then we have feast and nourishment imagery, hunger for knowledge. Browning likens the grammarian's desire for learning to a feast, where his hunger for knowledge is depicted as insatiable. The lines, "Let me know all," prate not of most or least, painful or easy, even to the crumbs I'd fain eat up the feast, I, nor feel queasy, convey his refusal to settle for partial understanding. His imagery reinforces the idea that true intellectual fulfillment requires a complete and exhaustive engagement with knowledge. And then we have architectural imagery, building a legacy. The grammarian's methodical approach to learning is portrayed through architectural imagery, where knowledge is likened to the construction of a carefully designed structure. His philosophy of image the whole, then execute the parts, reflects a belief that intellectual mastery requires careful planning and patience. The metaphor emphasizes that the foundation of knowledge must be solid before a larger intellectual edifice can be built, highlighting the grammarian's dedication to thoroughness and precision. And then we have animal imagery, instinct versus reason. Browning contrasts animal imagery with human intellectual pursuits to underscore the grammarian's transcendence of instinct. The line, "Leave now for dogs and apes, man has forever," highlights the difference between instinctual behavior, driven by immediate gratification, and the grammarian's pursuit of eternal truths. His dedication to learning elevates him above the realm of instinct, placing him in the company of those who seek higher wisdom. And finally, we have light and darkness imagery, enlightenment and ignorance. The transition from darkness to light symbolizes the grammarian's journey from ignorance to enlightenment. The line, "Our low life was the levels and the nights, his for the morning," highlights this shift, where the grammarian's pursuit of knowledge aligns him with the light of intellectual brilliance. His burial at the mountain top, where the light of knowledge illuminates the path of future seekers, reinforces the idea that his work serves as a beacon of inspiration. And now, let us talk about the structure and form of the poem. First is dramatic monologue, a collective voice of reverence. A grammarian's funeral is a dramatic monologue, but unlike Browning's usual monologues, it features a collective voice speaking in unison. The followers, inspired by the grammarian's dedication to knowledge, collectively narrate the procession, adding a choral and ritualistic quality to the poem. Their unified voice transforms the burial into a ceremonial tribute that celebrates intellectual martyrdom, where death is viewed not as a loss but as a triumph of knowledge over mortality. This collective narration blends personal grief with communal respect, underscoring that the grammarian's legacy transcends his own life, influencing future generations. And then we have irregular meter and varied rhyme scheme, reflecting intellectual struggle. The poem's irregular meter and varied rhyme scheme mirror the challenges inherent in grammarian's intellectual journey. Browning alternates between iambic and torchaic meters, creating rhythmic variations that reflect the physical and metaphorical ascent to the mountain top. The rhyme scheme, which oscillates between ABAB and AABB patterns, reinforces the idea that the path to knowledge is not smooth but marked by struggle, perseverance, and triumph. These irregularities emphasize the grammarian's determination and his conscious decision to embrace the arduous challenges of scholarly life. And then we have enjambment and caesura, momentum and reflection. Browning uses enjambment and caesura to balance movement with reflection. Enjambment creates a sense of forward movement, reflecting the physical ascent of the funeral procession and the grammarian's relentless pursuit of knowledge. For instance, our low life was the levels and the nights, his for the morning. Conversely, caesura introduces pauses that invite reflection, emphasizing moments where the followers contemplate the grammarian's sacrifice. This interplay between movement and pause mirrors the tension between action and contemplation that defines the life of a scholar. Browning effectively captures the oscillation between intellectual progress and philosophical reflection, enriching the emotional depth of the narrative. And then we have structured progression, a metaphorical ascent. The structure of the poem mirrors the physical and symbolic ascent to the mountain top, where the grammarian's body is laid to rest. Each stanza represents a phase in the grammarian's life, from his initial decision to pursue knowledge, through his relentless dedication despite physical decline, to his ultimate triumph over mortality. As the procession ascends, the tone becomes increasingly reverent and celebratory, culminating in the grammarian's burial, which symbolizes his transcendence of earthly limitations and elevation to intellectual immortality. And next we have repetition and refrain, emphasizing collective devotion. Repetition and refrain reinforce the collective admiration of the grammarian's life. Phrases like singing together and step to a tune create a ritualistic quality, transforming the funeral into a celebration of intellectual dedication. The repeated calls to carry up this corpse emphasize that the procession is not just about burial, but a communal acknowledgement of the grammarian's enduring legacy. This repetition evokes a liturgical tone, elevating the grammarian's life to one of sacred significance. And then we have antithesis and contrast, highlighting intellectual greatness. Browning uses antithesis and contrast to highlight the grammarian's greatness. The grammarian is juxtaposed with a low man who seeks immediate gratification, whereas the high man aspires to intellectual excellence, sacrificing worldly pleasures for higher pursuits. The contrast between the lowlands and the mountain top reinforces this theme, suggesting that the grammarian's work elevates him above ordinary existence. His ascent to the summit symbolizes his intellectual and spiritual transcendence. And next we have symbolic closure, the grammarian's burial as apotheosis. The poem culminates in a symbolic act of apotheosis, where the grammarian's burial at the mountain top signifies his elevation to a higher plane. The imagery of meteors, stars, and lightning reinforces the idea that his contributions to knowledge have granted him a place among the eternal forces of the cosmos. The closing lines, lofty designs must close in like effects, loftily lying, leave him still loftier than the world suspects, living and dying. These lines affirm that grammarian's life transcended earthly existence, achieving intellectual immortality through his enduring legacy. And the final section in the imagery is symbolic framework, the journey as a spiritual pilgrimage. The poem's structure reflects a spiritual pilgrimage, where the physical ascent parallels the grammarian's intellectual and spiritual journey. The linear progression punctuated by moments of reflection and celebration, mirrors the stages of a pilgrimage that moves from the profane lowlands to the sacred mountaintop. This symbolic framework reinforces the idea that the pursuit of knowledge is a sacred journey, where intellectual dedication leads to transcendence and immortality. And now, the final section of the video, where we will discuss 5 poems that are closely related to this poem. First one is Andrea del Sarto by Robert Browning himself. Robert Browning's Andrea del Sarto presents a deeply introspective monologue by the Renaissance painter Andrea del Sarto, who reflects on his life, career, and missed opportunities. Like the grammarian, Andrea grapples with the pursuit of perfection, but unlike the grammarian, he is haunted by a profound sense of mediocrity and unfulfilled potential. Andrea acknowledges his technical mastery as a painter, yet laments his inability to achieve the sublime greatness of artists like Michelangelo and Raphael. His failure is not due to a lack of skill, but to his inability to transcend worldly concerns and embrace the higher ideals of art. In contrast, the grammarian, though physically frail and socially unrecognized, pushes himself beyond human limits in his quest for complete knowledge. While Andrea's compromise with mediocrity leads to regret and disillusionment, the grammarian's relentless pursuit of knowledge grants him spiritual immortality. Both characters wrestle with the tension between artistic or intellectual excellence and worldly distractions. But Browning elevates the grammarian as an embodiment of ultimate dedication, while Andrea remains a cautionary figure whose compromise leads to an unfulfilled life. And then we have Rabbi bin Ezra by Robert Browning again. In Rabbi bin Ezra, Browning presents a philosophical mediation on aging, growth, and spiritual evolution. Like Grammarian's funeral, the poem advocates for embracing the journey of intellectual and spiritual growth over the fleeting pleasures of youth. The titular character, Rabbi bin Ezra, encourages a life devoted to the cultivation of wisdom and understanding, asserting that true fulfillment comes not from physical vitality, but from the pursuit of deeper knowledge and spiritual insight. This mirrors the grammarian's philosophy of deferring immediate gratification in favor of lifelong learning. Both figures reject the notion that life's value is measured by external success or worldly achievements. The grammarian, like Rabbi bin Ezra, believes that true life begins after mastering knowledge, and that the pursuit of eternal truths prepares the soul for a higher existence. While Rabbi bin Ezra celebrates the wisdom that comes with age, viewing life as a continuous ascent towards spiritual perfection, the grammarian embodies this ideal by dedicating his life to intellectual mastery, ensuring that his legacy endures beyond his physical death. And then we have Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Alfred Lord Tennyson's Ulysses explores the restless spirit of the legendary Greek hero who, despite his age and past accomplishments, yearns for one final adventure. Similar to the grammarian, Ulysses refuses to settle for a life of complacency and comfort, seeking instead to push beyond the limitations of mortality. Ulysses's famous declaration to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield resonates with the grammarian's unyielding pursuit of knowledge. Both characters embody the ideal of striving beyond the ordinary, refusing to succumb to the constraints of time and physical decline. However, while Ulysses embarks on a literal journey in search of adventure and meaning, the grammarian's quest is intellectual and spiritual. seeking the heights of knowledge that transcend mortal existence. Both figures reject passivity and embrace the challenges of life, recognizing the true fulfillment lies in the relentless pursuit of something greater than oneself. The grammarian's intellectual journey parallels Ulysses's physical voyage, with both ultimately seeking a form of immortality. Ulysses through heroic deeds, and the grammarian through the enduring legacy of knowledge. And fourth poem is The Scholar Gypsy by Matthew Arnold. Matthew Arnold's The Scholar Gypsy presents the story of an Oxford scholar who abandons conventional academic life to pursue a more profound spiritual quest for truth. Like the grammarian, the scholar gypsy rejects the constraints of ordinary existence, choosing a life of intellectual and spiritual exploration over material success and societal expectations. Both characters embody the ideal of dedicating oneself to the pursuit of higher knowledge, refusing to be bound by the limitations of worldly concerns. The scholar gypsy's decision to live a life of perpetual inquiry mirrors the grammarian's commitment to lifelong learning, where the pursuit of knowledge becomes a sacred and transformative journey. However, while the scholar gypsy's search leads him to a life of solitude and mystery, the grammarian's quest culminates in a form of intellectual martyrdom, where his work is honored and immortalized by his followers. Both characters reject the notion of conventional success, illustrating the belief that true fulfillment lies not in societal recognition but in the pursuit of eternal truths and higher ideals. And the fifth and the last poem is The Vanity of Human Wishes by Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson's The Vanity of Human Wishes offers a profound reflection of the futility of worldly aspirations and the transience of human desires. Much like grammarian's rejection of immediate pleasures in favor of eternal knowledge, Johnson's poem critiques the pursuit of wealth, power, and fame, suggesting that such desires ultimately lead to disappointment and disillusionment. Johnson advocates for a life guided by wisdom, humility, and spiritual growth, echoing the grammarian's belief that intellectual pursuits offer a path to transcendence. Both works explore the idea that true fulfillment lies not in the accumulation of material success, but in the cultivation of knowledge and virtue. While Johnson warns of the dangers of misguided ambition, the grammarian's life serves as a counterexample, a testament to the idea that dedicating oneself to the pursuit of knowledge, even at the cost of worldly pleasures, leads to a form of immortality. The grammarian's intellectual martyrdom, culminating in his burial on the mountain top, reinforces the philosophical lesson of Johnson's poem, that the highest aspirations are those that elevate the soul beyond the fleeting concerns of the world. So this was the detailed analysis of A Grammarian's Funeral by Robert Browning. We will meet in the next video and discuss some other poem. Until then, goodbye and thank you.